and welcome to Shan. I don't know, I actually changed the YouTube name. I don't know what a new intro should be. This is my first time filming with the new YouTube name. My YouTube name was Life with Shan at Bookish Shan. I couldn't decide on a name, so I went with both. And then I was on Instagram seeing if there were other usernames I could use. Bookish Shan on my Instagram. Since I am starting to branch into other niches, I've been doing travel a little bit more lifestyle, and just trying to broaden my horizons now that my life has broadened in a sense. I was looking into picking something that was more broad. Wow, what a word. And when I was looking to see if the new username Shannon H. Grace was available, it was, and Instagram automatically changed the username. Long story short, I'm Shannon Grace. Thanks for watching my YouTube videos. Like, comment, subscribe, and let's get started on all of the books I physically read in the month of July. And if you're new here, like I said, I'm Shannon, and this is Callie. Callie is 11 years old. She is a Labradoodle, and I got Callie with my family when I was in middle school. When I went off to college and got an apartment, I brought Callie with me. She's been with me since then, and she's now my dog, my child. She lives with my husband and I, and we love Callie very much. As you can tell, hopefully most dog owners do. Back to the books. We've got a big pile of books that I physically read in the month of July. It was a very good month. I do not always read this much physically. I do Kindle reads, I do audiobooks. A lot of my reading is done through audiobooks since I'm thankful enough to have a job where I can audiobook throughout the day. I typically do 3 or 4 audiobooks a week. That's where I get most of my reading done. And as much as I would like to sit down and physically read every single book, that's just not possible. There's not enough time. So if I can consume the stories and understand them and appreciate them just through audiobooks, that's what I'm doing. And thanks to my local library, I can do that at a very great cost of just whatever I pay in taxes every year, essentially. Not in any order besides hardback to smaller paper. First book first is Enola Holmes. I watched the movie a few years ago of Enola Holmes, the new Netflix movie. Kindly gifted the first book. It is a children's book. I think it's middle grade. Yeah, it's middle grade, ages 8 and up. I enjoyed it. It was cute. I love the idea of Enola Holmes, who is Sherlock Holmes' younger sister, and her mom goes missing on her birthday, and she has to figure out what's going on. And I want to say 1800s is when it takes place, and women can't do anything, let alone like 16-year-old girls. So she has to figure it all out, and her brother Sherlock does not give her the benefit of the doubt with anything she does. And there's a mystery. It's a female version of Sherlock Holmes. It was cute, sweet, as middle grade, easy to read. I enjoyed it. If you've seen the movie, I mean, you kind of understand the story, but it was very fun. It says, a teenage girl turned savvy detective. I was gifted this, by Gabby from a gift exchange. Thank you, Gabby. Did this a while ago. Oh yeah, March 14th, 2021, Gabby gifted me this from a gift exchange, and I finally got to read it. Well, thank you, Gabby. I appreciate it. I don't know how we're gonna display these. Next, I did these two, The Summer I Turned Pretty and It's Not Summer Without You. I love this series. I started this series in middle school. It got me back into reading, and I've just always loved it. The past 3 summers I've reread it. They're really easy. You could read the whole series in a day. I will say that the show is even better than the books in my opinion, and they're just fun. I did read the 3rd book, but that was at the beginning of this month, August, so it's not in the July wrap-up. It's essentially about a girl named Belly who goes and spends summer every year with her mom's best friend's family. And her mom's best friend's family has a beach house in Massachusetts. She has 2 sons. And then this summer that Belly becomes pretty, which is essentially like when she's old enough to have crushes and everything, is when the boys also start to recognize her. And then there's a love triangle, drama. There's a lot of stuff that happens. Obviously, I read it almost every year. So we have The Summer I Turned Pretty 1 and 2 along with Enola Holmes. This one is The 7 Years by Ashley Poston. I read The Dead Romantics last year by her, and it surprised me. It's not something I anticipated liking. I just read it because everyone online really liked it, as I do most things, honestly. I'm very heavily influenced. This one, she is a book publicist, and she inherits her aunt's apartment. And her aunt had told her, so you know there's some magic behind this apartment. It's a very unique place. And the apartment, when you're most in need, Oh, Callie's doing a stretch right in front of the camera. Very nice. When you're most in need, the apartment will take you back in time 7 years. Every now and then she goes back in time 7 years, and there's another guy who's staying at the apartment, and she ends up crushing. She doesn't get to see him every day because of the apartment decides when and if. Then present day, she thinks she may or may not have just found him. Weird, because to him it would be 7 years of a time difference, but to her it's just a week or so. And I mean, it's a romance, you can kind of go from there, but this was good. Her books are not like your average romance. There's some magical realism, there's sometimes supernatural, and I really enjoy her books. And the covers are, oh, this one was good too. Man, this was a good month. I did The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. It was a good one. I immediately bought the next 2 books, especially because I finished this one right around Prime Day. It's a magical theme park, essentially like Disney. It's in Central Florida. The grandson of the owner inherits part of the theme park, but it comes with very strict rules. He has to be in charge of a certain department, and he has to find the magic back in the theme park and in his life or something. And it is a romance, and then the next 2 books follow the other 2 grandsons, and I'm excited to read those. I have heard that the second book is not as good as the first book, so a lot of people don't end up reading the third. I've just been a little intimidated by that, but I did add it to my little, you can't really see it, but I think this one is my TBR shelf for the month, so I did add it there just to remind me to pick it up. Excited for the next 2. This was a good book. It's very popular on Book Talk. I highly recommend at least the first book. If you like Lucy Score's Things Never Got Over, you would like this. It's a grumpy sunshine for the fine print. Next is Dark and Shallow Lies, and this one was a little fantasy. She is a twin. She has magic, but her twin sister's gone missing, and she then reaches out to the friends and family that also have magic to try and get their help to locate her sister and find out if she's even alive or not. Here, this little blurb is, in this town, magic runs deep, but secrets run deeper, and that pretty much sums up the book. If you liked House of Hollow, you would like Dark and Shallow Lies. It's very mystery, sometimes thriller with magic. It would be a great fall pick in my opinion, and it's not just romance, witch romance like most fall books are. So I highly recommend this one. Get in there, guys. I read Sunkissed by Casey West, and this was my first Casey West. I genuinely enjoyed it. It was short and sweet, which is sometimes all you need for a summer YA read. It is about Ava. She just found out her boyfriend kissed her best friend, which I went through something similar in high school, so I really related to this character. She finds that out as her family goes on their summer vacation to a resort, but it's kind of like a lodge in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, and you have no service or internet or anything. So she goes there, she's disconnected from her friends who she has so much drama with, and she ends up kind of ghosting them, not by necessarily choice, but she realizes that's what's healthier for her anyways, and she doesn't go out of her way to call them. She ends up meeting the staff at the resort that are her age and bonding with them, and she has a younger sister who's going through similar experiences. Music is one of their hobbies. It wasn't a summer camp read, but you had that nostalgia and feeling of summer camp, which I appreciated, and it was a YA read that had romance, family elements, and a younger sister, which always adds to the themes of the book. I would recommend this if you want a short and sweet summer read. I would probably read another one of her books again next summer. I don't know about right now. I read, just for the not the hope of it all, but the thrill of it, Outer Banks by Alyssa Shenmel. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but this is a prequel to the show, and you just get a lot more of JJ and John B. Having watched the show, I enjoyed the book. I already knew the characters, and it was just kind of a cherry on top of the show. If I had not watched the show, I would not have cared for this book. It's unnecessary. I'd probably give it a 3.5. It's just a summer adventure read. There's not too much depth to it. It's a lot of things you already know from watching the show. Well, but if you want another JJ and John B adventure, this one's a good one. It takes place during spring break before the first summer of season 1. John B's dad is still missing. JJ is not getting along with his dad. I mean, it's all the same. The show, it's just a prequel. Dreamland by Nicholas Sparks, which I actually met him for when he published this book, which was just a fun little thing. Kind of enhances the experience of reading it. But this book I particularly enjoyed because it takes place near where I live, which is St. Pete Beach for this book, and it was just fun to have that element of it. Follow two storylines. The first one is a guy in St. Pete Beach, a musician, and he's performing, but really he's a full-time farmer in the Carolinas, and this is just the first time he's ever done anything like this. He meets a girl and it goes from there. And the other plot line with the other perspective is that there's a woman who is leaving her abusive husband, and she's taken her child with her, and she's trying to stay under the radar, survive. And you switch about every 50 pages or so it kept me very involved. I would get 50 pages of the couple. I was then a little annoyed when I hit the second 50 pages and like, oh, I have to read about this lady who I hadn't been introduced. Like, I felt like I was reading two separate books, but it was done so well that it was put together really good way, and it has a lot of depth to it. After I got through the first round of each plot line, I just wanted more of both. So anytime it would switch, I was okay with it. I wasn't annoyed like I was the first time. Of his most recent books, this is my favorite out of them. Out of all of his books that I've read, I really liked See Me and The Guardian, I think it's called. It has a dog, and I really like dogs. But out of his past three books, I think this was my favorite. And I read The Shore by Katie Runn, which was very fun because she came on to my book club at the Bookish Book Club, which is a virtual book club. So if anyone's looking for a virtual book club, we do sometimes have authors hop on, and Katie had came and she talked with us. But this book follows three girls. Two are sisters and one is the mom, and you get alternate point of views throughout the whole story. And the dad is dying and he's losing his memory, and then there's his death along with other things that happen, and the girls are all trying to cope with it, and you get their perspective of how they're grieving time that they know their dad is dying, how they grieve after he dies, and what they're feeling as young teenagers, as a mom. Katie just did such a great job. It takes place on the Jersey Shore, hence the name The Shore. It is not a fun summer read. It is very heartfelt. There's a lot of family elements. I think it's worth the read. I just went into it thinking it was a fun summer read, and it wasn't, so I was a little disappointed by that, but it was still a very good book, and it did a really good job being multiple perspectives, also wrapping it up well. And it reminded me and validated a lot of things I went through as a younger female, and I just appreciated The Shore a lot. I actually bought this book in New Jersey by the shore with some of my New Jersey bookish friends when I went there last July. Now I want to go back. I always want to go back, but now I really want to go back. Was Katie Cotugno's Liar's Beach. This was a fun thriller summer YA. You follow a boy who is a scholarship kid at boarding school, and he goes on summer vacation with one of his rich boarding school friends, and he's kind of like self-conscious about his lack of wealth, and he ends up bumping into someone that he knows from before boarding school who knows of his status financially, so he's really self-conscious about that. Then there's an accident and something happens. These teenagers try to figure it out. If you like first season Riverdale, you would like Liar's Beach. I'm not saying the rest of Riverdale, I'm saying first season Riverdale, you would like Liar's Beach. I forgot I read this book this month. This book was so good. Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. Celeste can do no wrong. This book, I don't know if you've read Celeste books like Little Fires Everywhere, you will know what I'm talking about. She just tugs at your heartstrings. She also informs you. It opens your mind a lot. I don't know how to describe it. I think if you don't like Celeste Ng's books, you're not getting the point. I'll read you the synopsis a little bit because I won't be able to describe it as well. 12-year-old Bird Gardner lives a quiet existence with his loving but broken father, a former linguist who now shelves books in a university library. Bird knows not to ask too many questions, stand out too much, or stray too far. For a decade, their lives have been governed by laws written to preserve American culture. In the wake of years of economic instability and violence, to keep the peace and restore prosperity, the authorities are now allowed to relocate children of descendants, especially those of Asian origin. And libraries have been forced to remove books seen as unpatriotic, including the work of Bird's mother, Margaret, a Chinese-American poet who left the family when she was 9 years old. You can kind of see the parallelism in this synopsis to modern day as well, with the book bans and everything. He grows up not knowing his mother and not knowing what happened to her, and being told he can't act Asian, which is part of who he is. He tries to find out more about who he is and his Asian origin without being removed. It is a very good book. I have a little anecdote, funny story. I went to Charleston a few weeks ago with my friend Anna Catherine, and I had just finished this book. We were walking down by the Pineapple Fountain University area, and I hear someone go, "Hey, do you have a book recommendation?" And I did not assume they were talking to me, because it's like, how would anyone know to ask me that? But then I looked and he was talking to me, and I had recommended this one, and I got to talk to him a little bit after the video. And he has a podcast with his wife. I'll link that down below. They are also on Instagram, and he's trying to grow his podcast so he can get more author interviews, while also trying to get book recommendations from strangers in Charleston. And I just think that's such a fun project to have. Like I said, I'll link them down below. Another story to go along with my memory of reading this story, Our Missing Heart. We're almost there. We got 4 more. I'll try to talk faster. We have Agatha Christie, which is 12 new mysteries from different mystery writers like Lucy Foley, Karen McMahon. It was fun. It was 12 short stories, all kind of Agatha Christie style, with the same marple. Kind of a continuation of the Agatha Christie legacy, and I appreciated this. Oh, another good one. The Many Daughters of a Fung Moi. Now we have the 3 daughters of a Fung Moi, and this book I got from Book of the Month last year. And I'm bummed it took me so long to read it. I was very intrigued by this book because it talks a lot about epigenetics and trauma, and the idea behind that, which I learned in grad school, was that you experience trauma and triggers to trauma from like your great grandparents, your ancestors, essentially. Because when you are traumatized, the idea is that you change your genetics, like DNA kind of adjust to this new fear it's carried along, which that's what epigenetics is. Your DNA adjusts as you age. So when you have children, that kind of gets carried on. The whole thing of this is a Fung Moi. She was the first female Asian to come to the United States, and this book talks about her journey, and then what her daughters and her granddaughters and her great-granddaughters experienced, and how they all had similar fears and concerns, not as just Asian women, but as women and women of the same family line. Beautiful. I don't know how else to describe it. I highly recommend The Many Daughters of a Fung Moi, especially if you have an add-on available in your Book of the Month box. This was a very good book. There were a lot of good books. 5-star read, Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. So good. I have not read that good of a thriller in a while. This was so good. Let me tell you guys. I'll read you a little bit. Fresh out of rehab, Mallory Quinn takes a job in the affluent suburb of Springbrook, New Jersey, as a babysitter for Ted and Caroline Maxwell. She is to look after their 5-year-old son, Teddy. Mallory immediately loves this new job. She lives in the Maxwell's pool house, goes on nightly runs, and has the stability she craves. And she sincerely bonds with Teddy, a sweet, shy boy who is never without his sketchbook and pencil. His drawings are the usual fare: trees, rabbits, balloons. But one day he draws something different: a man in a forest dragging a woman's lifeless body. As the days pass, Teddy's artwork becomes more sinister, and his stick figures evolve into more complex, lifelike sketches well beyond the ability of any 5-year-old. Mallory begins to suspect these are glimpses of an unresolved murder from long ago, perhaps relayed by a supernatural force lingering in the forest behind the Maxwell's house. With help from a handsome landscaper and an eccentric neighbor, Mallory sets out to decipher the images and save Teddy, while coming to terms with the tragedy in her own past before it's too late. So well done. I actually have a friend who also read this book last month, and she rated it 5 stars too. Hidden Pictures, highly recommend. Would be a great fall book. And then last but not least, American Mermaid by Julia Longding. This book was beautiful. I'm telling you guys, I was able to read so much in July because I had such great books throughout the entire month. I think my least favorite of the month would be this Agatha Christie. I'm just not a big short story girly. Anyways, back to American Mermaid. It follows along with a book author, not this author, but a fictional character who's an author, and the process of getting her story, her book, turned into a film. The filmmakers do not understand the storyline. Really makes the main character, the author, start to recognize things about herself and learn about why she wrote this character. Also switches to a different perspective, which is the book. So you get both. You get both what's happening to the author as she tries to get this book filmed into a movie. There's the author perspective and then book perspective. The book perspective follows this young girl who's handicapped in a a wheelchair, and you kind of learn what's going on and about what she endures and how she's doing mental health wise and everything. And such great parallelism, so well done. I highly recommend going into it blind. Well, that was a big month. Lots of really good books. I think, like I said, my least favorite was probably Agatha Christie, and my favorite romance would be The Fine Print. Then I think my other two favorites would be Swan, Hidden Pictures, The Daughters of a Fung, and they were all beautifully done. But it was a great reading month. I highly recommend pretty much all of these. I don't recommend Agatha Christie's for everyone. You have to really love the Agatha Christie legacy and short stories, but it is cute. I think it would be a good audiobook. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day. Like, comment, and subscribe. You know, all those YouTube things. And if you have a favorite book from July, please comment it down below. I would love to hear about it.